Hello, my audience. This is Marissa, and today I'm here to review one of three movies that came out in 2023 that I am only now gonna finish the review of. The last two I actually recorded in 2023, but I haven't edited them yet. This one I'm recording in January 2024. I'm actually recording this video a pretty long time after I actually saw the movie. With some of these reviews, you gotta know, with some of these reviews, I recorded the review right after I got home from the movie. With others, I can wait a few weeks before I actually talk about the movie. It's okay, it's fine. Oh god, I'm a mess. Yeah, and I do have just a quick update on my content, because I feel like my movie reviews, of all places, are a place to talk about that. I do have quite a few projects from last year that I do want to get done, including one really big, significant one that, I'm kind of just kicking myself in the ass for not finishing sooner, for not finishing last year, but it's fine. Everything's fine. Let's actually talk about the movie. We're talking about The Creator today. The Creator. Let's go. I was pretty excited to see this movie because it looked really good based on the trailer and everything. I'm not really much of a sci-fi person, to be honest. Not that I dislike it or anything. I just honestly haven't seen a lot of science fiction things outside of stuff like Star Wars. I haven't really seen a lot of it, and honestly it's just not my genre. It's not really something that interests me that much. I'm more of a fantasy girl, personally. Honestly, it's just not something that I'm super interested in. But the trailers for this movie did look really interesting, really promising. I thought the story looked really interesting. You have this world where there are robots living beside humans, fully sentient AIs living beside humans, and this guy has to guard this super weapon, but the super weapon is this little girl. It's taken the form of a little child, and who has these amazing powers to manipulate technology around her, and it's a very technologically advanced society, so that's a huge, that makes her very powerful and able to just manipulate all of her surroundings. And this guy has to take care of her and make sure that these other countries don't get a hold of her, because she's she's this super weapon who has the ability to just control the conflict that's going on. So I thought that was a really interesting story, and also the effects in this movie look really good, and I am very happy that I actually saw this movie in theaters. Even though we're gonna get into some of my problems with it, I am very happy that I watched this movie in theaters, because I do not think I would have enjoyed it as much if I watched it on my laptop screen. So yeah, I definitely did have some expectations, pretty high expectations for this movie, even though it's not really my genre, not really my thing. But yeah, honestly, I need to stop having expectations for movies. I am one of those people who has a really bad habit of having really high expectations for a movie and getting disappointed if if that movie doesn't reach the expectation or beyond the expectations. I will be disappointed with even a really good movie if it doesn't live up to the idea I had in my head. It's I need to just not have expectations. And sometimes, you do get a Shazam Fury of the Gods where it's just a bad movie. Honestly, I'm gonna be honest, that was my first unscripted review that I did. I was not hard enough on it in that review. And I need to not have expectations. I need to not think things. I need to have neutral expectations going into every movie I see, because otherwise I get disappointed, and this is a problem I have. So the story, like I said, so this guy, his name is Joshua. He used to be in the military, and like I said, it takes place in this world that's super technologically advanced. There are these AI, these robots who like are so advanced that they basically have human emotions, human thoughts. Like they basically function as humans. And for a while, in America, the robots and the humans were kind of coexisting. It is just kind of implied that like robots were only used for like labor. At the very beginning of the movie, there's these, like, you see this video that's like advertising the robots pretty much, that's like talking about the robots, and it's saying like they can do all these jobs for us. There's like one part where they show like robots like cooking in a restaurant. So like robots used to live side by side with humans, but then there was this incident where pretty much robots like destroyed, I'm pretty sure it's San Francisco. Obviously because of that, like the US went to war with the robots and like started destroying them because like they decided after that, like, oh, they're clearly dangerous and we need to fight them. And the main character, Joshua, he used to be in the military where he was fighting this war against, because like pretty much after this, like all the robots started living in Asia, or New Asia, as this movie calls it. We're going to get to that later. And Joshua was pretty much undercover in like the technologically advanced New Asia. He was trying to find this person called the Creator. Roll credits. He was trying to find this person, and he met this woman who like he was told was the Creator's daughter. And while he's like living undercover trying to get information from her, trying to find the Creator, who's like, as you can probably guess, the creator of like this AI technology. But like while Joshua is undercover, he falls in love with the woman he's supposed to be like spying on and getting like the secrets from. Her name is Maya. The two actually like get married and end up conceiving a child together. But then one day, one night, there's an attack on the place that they're staying, and Maya, to his knowledge, actually ends up dying. Yeah, she's not actually dead. They have a big ship that just causes a big explosion that blows up the boat she's going on. They have like a big argument before because they're living amongst a bunch of the robots, and he says, I think they call them androids in this movie, but it doesn't matter, and he says, none of them are real. None of them actually feel emotions. You shouldn't be attached to them, because she kind of like thinks of them as her like friends or her family. And she says, no, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, they can actually like feel things, and they're not evil, and they're not dangerous. And you're wrong for thinking that. And after this, she just gets on a boat and she's like leaving him. And then there's this giant ship that just blows up the boat. And obviously, he assumes that she is dead. Years after that incident, he's retired from the military now, and he's just living a, like, regular life where, yes, I am looking on the Wikipedia summary, because years after that, he is living in Los Angeles. He's a part of the cleanup crew who's, like, still, like, going through the ruins. One day, he's approached by these, two people from the military, and they tell him basically, hey, we believe that your wife is actually alive. Also, we're trying to look for the Creator. We're still trying to look for the Creator, and we believe we're setting up this new mission, and we believe that your wife is still alive. And they, obviously, he agrees to rejoin the military in order to find his wife. So they go to, again, New Asia. I'm sorry, that's one of my big pet peeves with this movie. We're gonna talk about it later. So, they raid this facility where they believe this secret facility under this village, where they believe that they are holding this weapon. And Joshua manages to get in, and, he gets to the weapon that's being held there, and it turns out to be this little girl. Like, it turns out, like, it's an android, but it's this android that looks like a little girl. And this girl does have the ability to, like, remotely control technology. And instead of following the orders and just like destroying her then and there, he actually just takes her because, you know, he believes that she can take him to Maya, like she can find her. He names this the girl he found Alfie. They have to go on this mission together to like find his wife and keep her away from like these people who want to just find her and destroy her, because she has like the potential to become the most powerful weapon in the world. Let me just get to the best thing about this movie by far. The number one reason to see it, and the number one reason to like see it in theaters back when it was in theaters. The effects in this movie are incredible. I was about to say this movie has like some of the best effects of the entire year. That is not saying much. Like, its competition is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania and The Flash. So like it pretty much wins that by default, but like, I really mean it. The effects in this movie are just incredible. Like, everything just looks so real, so very, very impressive. It's a very gorgeous movie. And not only that, like, just the designs of, like, the robots, the ships, the technology, all of that just looks so cool. Also, another thing about this movie is the action. The action scenes, again, best action scenes in a movie this year. That is a low freaking bar to clear. When you compare any effects from like a movie that was actually trying to like most of what Marvel and DC is putting out, you know, it's pretty night and day comparison. But yeah, the action in this movie, very well done as well. Very, very exciting, very tense in a lot of scenes. I am very, very happy that I saw this movie in theaters, because it is just incredible to like see those effects on the big screen. Like, I really wish that they would just re-release this movie in theaters, so I recommend seeing it in theaters. But yeah, that is absolutely a reason to just watch this movie, just because that is incredible. Like, that aspect of the movie, absolutely incredible. Fucking amazing compared to everything that else that has come out this year. I know I'm harping on about that, but like, I will take any chance I get to bitch and moan about Marvel and DC's effects at the moment. Like, this movie is proof that big budget action movies have the option to not look like shit. Like, as an action movie, this movie is really, really good. Just as a big budget action movie, this movie is a step above the rest. But I still didn't love this movie, and the reason why is the story. In my opinion, the story and the characters aren't as good as the effects. This is one of those movies where like the effects are a lot better, where like the effects and the spectacle and the action are just so much better than the actual story and characters, because the story and characters, in my opinion, were for the most part rather weak. Let's talk about the two main characters in this movie. Honestly, I didn't get that attached to them while I was watching this movie. Joshua and Alfie really aren't the most interesting or likable characters. Let's talk about Joshua first, because he's the one I have more problems with. Pretty much, it seems like his entire motivation and his entire character really just kind of revolves around his wife. He basically has two character traits. He doesn't like robots because he thinks they're evil and his family died when they nuked Los Angeles, and he loves his wife and he wants to find his wife. There's not a whole lot to him, like, outside of that. John David Washington, the actor who was playing him, did a good job. I think he brought a little bit more to the character, but honestly, there is not a lot there to work with. For most of the movie, it just didn't even feel like he had his own motivation. Actually, I did get that a little bit wrong. He does have a third trait. He's an asshole. A really huge asshole for a lot of the movie to, like, the kid he's with. And let's talk about her a little bit. Alfie, I thought, was a lot less interesting. For one, she falls into a lot of the problems I have with child characters in movies. She has a lot of the most cringe dialogue in the movie. Like I said, I thought this movie looked really good when I saw the trailers, but like, there's this one line that I thought was so freaking cringe. I'm not sure if anyone uses the word cringe in 2023, but that's the only way I can. It made me wince. There's this one part where this one lady like is talking to Alfie and she goes, "Would you like anything?" And she goes, "I want all robots to be free." The lady's like, "We don't have that in the fridge. Would you like some ice cream?" I'm sorry, I thought that sounded stupid. And like most of Alfie's dialogue is like that. And her entire character is just like, she's innocent, she's kind, and she's like, she sees the world in this innocent, naive way, and that is her entire character. I hate it when writers write child characters and it's like their entire personality is just, they're so innocent. And like, innocent is where their character like begins and ends, and they don't like talk like real children or act like real children. Like, and you know, maybe in Alfie's case specifically, you can say, oh, she doesn't act or talk like a real child because she's technically not a real child. You know, she's an android. But at the same time, I just thought it was really annoying that she spends most of the she spends pretty much almost all of the movie just talking like that. Like, I think it would have been a lot more interesting if, like, because like I said, she is this super weapon, she is this like incredibly powerful entity. I think it would be more interesting if she like actually acted more like a kid, like more like a real kid, and not like what people who have never met a child think kids act like. So yeah, I just didn't find either of them that interesting. I also just thought that they were very, very generic characters. But more so than that, my problem with these two characters is their bond, the pseudo parent-child bond between them that is supposed to be like the heart of the movie, the very like emotional core of the movie, did not feel believable to me. Like I said earlier, Joshua is a huge asshole to her for part of the movie. He is just, you know, he's just like, I am just walking around with this stupid robot kid because I want to get something out of her. I just want to find my wife, so I'm putting up with this robot even though I hate robots, and I think I just also hate children. That's kind of the vibe I got from his character. A lot of movies do this, where, you know, they have two characters who are kind of stuck together and stuck working together, but by the end of the movie, you know, they forge a bond, they forge a connection, and they can work together better, and they care about each other. I cannot think of any other movie where it felt as forced as this movie did. Like, there is this one part of the movie, like, I think it happens before, like, somewhere in the second act, where there's this scene where, like, Jonathan, did I almost call him Jonathan? What the fuck? Where, like, Joshua, like, comforts Alfie after something happens, and you know, that's supposed to be the moment where we're like, oh, they have a connection now. They care about each other now. He cares about this child now. But it's like, that scene comes out of fucking nowhere. Like, when I was watching this movie, I was legitimately surprised. I was legitimately surprised when that happened. I'm like, wait, where the fuck is that coming from? Like, it didn't seem like anything, it didn't feel like there was an event that kind of led into that. Like, it didn't seem like there was a scene where Joshua kind of had a reason to, like, start caring about Alfie as, like, a person. I put air quotes around person because, you know, like started actually caring about Alfie instead of just seeing her as like the MacGuffin he has to lug around to get his wife back. Where it seemed like he actually felt anything for this kid as an individual. Not to mention, like I said, Joshua hates robots. You know, the nuke that killed his family was dropped by robots, except it actually wasn't. Yeah, they just kind of say, like, out of nowhere towards the end of the movie, like, oh, actually humans dropped that, robots were innocent anyway. Like, the point in the movie where, like, he realizes he was wrong about robots happens after this moment. You know, he's still like, robots don't feel emotions. Robots are dangerous. Robots can only pretend to feel emotion to manipulate people. Robots suck. You know, it doesn't make sense for him to... Because obviously, if he thinks that about all robots, he thinks that about Alfie. Like, he has no reason to think of her as any different. It could have been so much more believable, aside from a scene where they're on a train and they exchange more pretty cringe dialogue about heaven. I'm sorry, I think a lot of the dialogue in this movie kind of sounds stupid. I just didn't believe that the connection, again, like the kind of pseudo parent child, father-daughter relationship that they had with each other. I just did not believe that. And like, I just feel like it could have been like so much more impactful and believable if they just set it up better, if they just built it up better. Because when they first meet, like a lot of the first act, early second act of this movie is just, like I said, Joshua just kind of lugging this robot kid around and bitching and moaning to her every time he has the opportunity, and just, you know, complaining that he has to carry this kid around and kind of being an asshole to her a lot of the time. And it just didn't feel like there was anything. It didn't feel like he thought of her as anything except for a tool he can use to get his wife back. And just because that is supposed to be like the emotional core of this movie, the story just kind of fell flat for that reason. It just didn't feel like the emotional center of this story just didn't work, because it just wasn't, like, just the writing just wasn't very good there. Could have been so much better. My other big problem with this movie is it is Avatar but with robots. Avatar but with robots has kind of been my nickname for this movie ever since I saw it. Something you've probably been told in screenwriting classes or just writing classes, this is probably something you've heard of before if you're a writer, is when you're presenting a theme in your movie, you often start with the lie. I think that's how it's usually phrased. So pretty much when you're writing a theme, you kind of start with having the characters or like leading the audience to believe the opposite of it. Like, you have your characters and your audience believe a lie, and then at the very beginning of your story and then throughout the story, you kind of show that that lie isn't true, that it was a lie, that actually it's like this. And this movie attempts to do it, but it kind of does it badly. At the beginning of the movie, Joshua hates robots and he believes that robots can't feel human emotions and can't feel love and aren't really human. And he believes that if a robot ever expresses like emotion or like affection for like humans, that they are just like they have just been programmed to act like that, that it's just programming and it's not like real affection or real love or just anything like that. Like, they are just being programmed to behave in a certain way. But then over the course of the movie, you know, he spends like a lot of time with and around robots, and he realizes, oh, that's not true. You know, they actually, like, the AI pretty much is so advanced that like robots can actually, feel things. Pretty much everything that humans believe about robots is wrong, and they're not dangerous, and they're not terrible, and they don't have to be at war with them. And I would say, in concept, that's an interesting idea. I think that that's an interesting arc for him. It's one of the few things about this character that is remotely interesting, so, it has that going for it. But my problem with this entire story, in this entire theme, is it is so goddamn preachy. It is shoved in your face so fucking much. Seriously, let me put it this way. Did you think Avatar was, really preachy and really in your face with, the prejudice allegory, the prejudice message? This movie is worse. It is as subtle as, a sledgehammer being slammed against your face. They will not shut up about it. It really just feels like they did not think that the audience was smart enough to get this. They are practically just holding the audience down, slapping them in the face, and screaming, "Do you get that it's a metaphor for prejudice?" And the entire movie, it's like there's a button and they're just smashing the humans are bad and robots are good, and they're just slamming that in your face every second. It gets so annoying, especially when you get all these scenes where humans are doing bad things, and you just see a bunch of innocent robots just standing there looking up all innocently. Again, you're being held down, you're being slapped in the face, and they're like, "Do you get that robots are good and humans bad?" Again, I thought that Avatar was a little bit unsubtle with, the whole allegory it was going for, but this movie outdid it in every way. It could have been a lot better and a lot more interesting if they just held back a little bit and didn't just hammer it in to the point that it just got so goddamn annoying. At a certain point, I was just like, okay, I get it. Racism is bad. I get it. You don't have to, hold me down and, hammer that in, I get, you don't have to, hold my hand and, guide me through your themes with all these scenes where, the robots are, crying and, the humans are crying over the robots when the bad things happen. I get it, and you can shut up now. I think the worst part and the part that gets me is it legitimately feels like the movie thinks it's being clever. And it's not. While I was watching this movie, I could not stop, mentally comparing it to Avatar, because that is, the way they handled their themes were just, so similar, but this movie was so much more, in your face about just hammering it in. The other problem I kind of had with the story was, the world building. Like I said, the world looks cool. The world the designs of, this hyper futuristic world, and with all these robots and all of this stuff, it looks cool. But the actual world building, the way that things are explained, I had a lot of problems with that. So let's talk about New Asia. Let's talk about New Asia, because I thought that was such a stupid story world building decision. So, pretty much, at the beginning of the movie, it's explained that, like I said, nuke on Los Angeles, and because of that, they went to war with the robots, and a lot of the robots are, in Asia, so they went to war with Asia, and apparently, for reasons that this movie never explains, all of the countries in Asia kind of collectively, moved, mushed together to create a new nation just called New Asia. And I thought that was such a stupid decision. You could have just, because America didn't do this. It's not like America and Canada and Mexico fused together to create new America, new North America. Like America is just normal, regular America. Why did you have to create a new? Why couldn't it just be like regular Asia? And it just doesn't make sense. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me that these countries would do that. Like, what is their motivation for doing that? What is their motivation for, like, forming a new country instead of just being individual countries? You could have just had it so there was just, like, a world war. We've had those in history. You don't need to, like, make it so it's just, like, America and this blob of Asia. It just doesn't make sense, and it just, again, it's just, they never explain, like, what, like, China and Japan and India and so on and so forth got out of just, like, giving up their individuality as countries and just coming together and forming this country with a stupid name, like, and just all merging together into a single nation. You could have had that, but, like, you need to explain that more, because, like, from what it looks like, it just seems like the writers of this movie just had something against having their characters go to multiple different countries. Oh, and also, apparently, in this world, America colonized the moon. This is only brought up at, like, the very end of the movie. If they brought that up before that point in the movie, like, before the, like, literally just the climax of the movie, I didn't notice it. It's like, I'm sorry, when did that happen? This world is, like, super technologically advanced, but, like, when did we do that? I'm not kidding. At the very end of the movie, there's just a scene where Joshua and Alfie take a plane to the moon. Like, like, the moon is just somewhere you can go in an airport, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, you need to tell me that sooner. It makes sense in this world that they would be able to do that, but at the same time, it's like, you need to explain before that point that they did it, because we have no indication, and that's kind of a big thing. Like, oh, in this world, we mastered space travel, and you can go to the moon from a freaking airport. I just thought the world building was as poorly handled as the themes. It's a 2-hour movie. I get that it would be hard to really go in depth with it, but, like, it just seemed dumb to me. This movie just throws a bunch of things at you that just don't really make a lot of sense. So, as I think I have made pretty clear at this point, the action and the special effects and, like, the designs of, like, the spaceships and the robots and all of that was really cool. That was the part of the movie that I was really getting into, but it was just the story and the characters and the world building, just the writing, not really getting into. Like, I didn't think that the story was that unique or interesting. I didn't think that the characters were very well developed. I just didn't really care that much about the characters, and I haven't even talked about, like, the supporting characters, all of whom were uninteresting. The supporting characters and the antagonists in this movie, who were just whatever. So I just did not think that this movie was that great in that department. And then this movie had 2 scenes that actually kind of got me. I'm not kidding. This is coming out of nowhere for you guys, I'm sure, but this movie had 2 emotional moments that, like, actually kind of got to me. The first one was, probably should have brought this up sooner, but at some point in the movie, Joshua finds out that, like I said, they were looking for the creator, and they believed that his wife Maya was the daughter of the creator. She was actually the creator, which I think that raises a few questions, but, like, that's what happened. And this is told to Joshua by, like, some random supporting character who I don't entirely know how he knew that information, but, like, whatever. He finds that out, like, at some, like, halfway through the movie, and then, you know, they're still looking for her, and they actually go to this, they find her, they go to like this one village. These robots bring them into like this like temple where they actually, she's actually in a coma. She's been in a coma for years now, and they tell her, we were gonna take her off life support, but like our programming prevents us from hurting the creators, so like we can't really do that. So at that point, Joshua actually does it himself. He just takes her off of life support because she has no chance of actually waking up. And it's also revealed at this point, because I mentioned this earlier in this review, Maya was actually pregnant. Like, she was pregnant with Joshua's child, and they actually mentioned that she actually used the, she never gave birth to the kid, obviously, but she actually, like, used the DNA, I think, from the fetus to create Alfie. Because, like, Alfie is, like, a little bit human. So, like, technically, Alfie is, like, kinda Joshua's kid in a weird way, sort of. So that's revealed at that point in the movie, and like I said, he has to take her off of life support himself. And honestly, I didn't care that much about these characters. I didn't think that they had much of a connection or a bond. I didn't get much into their, like, relationship. But honestly, that scene was really, really well handled. I think it was just the performances from the actors and the directing. Like, it actually was a pretty impactful moment that, like, really, like, resolved some of the character arcs. And the second scene that got me, like I said, they go to the moon. Like, they escape, like, they get captured by the government, but then they escape and they go to the moon, which, again, I thought it was dumb. That climax was actually pretty exciting. They're getting on this plane, and the government is trying to stop the plane to get them, but Alfie is, like, overriding a bunch of stuff so that the plane, like, takes off. Like, they're trying to keep it grounded, but Alfie keeps, like, using her powers to, like, make sure the plane takes off and make sure that they don't stop it. It's a fun climax. And then they get, again, to the moon. I can't get over that. For some reason, that gets me. And long story short, they pretty much have to blow up this government base to escape. Like, they're trying to get out before everything goes kaboom. And there is this one, like, this single shuttle left. There is a single escape pod left. And if you've seen movies, you probably know how this goes. So, like, Joshua forces Alfie to get into it. It's only, like, a one-person one, I guess. And he has to stay behind, and, she's, like screaming, crying out to him, like, don't do this. There has to be a different way. I can't leave you. Like, she is just crying, and he's like, hey, it's gonna be okay. And honestly, I don't know why, because like I said, I didn't care about these characters before this point. Again, I think it's just a directing. It's just like the performances of the actors just really, really sold it. And then, I forgot to mention this, but before this point, like I said, there was that one scene where they had to take Maya off of life support, but before they did that, they somehow transported all of, like, her memories into, like, this computer chip. And there's a scene where, like, while they're on the government base and while they're fighting people and, like, setting up the bombs that are gonna blow the place up, Alfie just finds this, like, android body that looks like Maya. Just 'cause, I guess, she just puts, like, the memory chip into her. It pretty much revives, like, puts all of, like, her memories into this robot and kind of revives her, I guess. Joshua stays behind and saves Alfie. And maybe it's just because that kind of scene just will always get me. Like, heroic sacrifice, that is always good. As the facility is blowing up, he sees Maya again. And like I said, this is kind of a dumb scene just because, like, there's so many coincidences. Like, why does this android look exactly like her? Why is that? But as the place is just blowing up, he sees her and, they walk towards each other and, they embrace right before they both get blown up in this. So it's kind of like he got to see her again before he died. And honestly, a lot of the things that built up to this moment are a little weird and don't make sense, but at the same time, it was a sweet moment. Again, I can't praise like the directing and the acting in this movie enough. It really sells a lot of moments that otherwise I'd be like, that is stupid and I don't care. And then Alfie crashes on Earth and a bunch of people see her. And it's like an uplifting ending because she is super strong and she can help the robots. Yeah. And that's the movie. That's the creator. Okay, so it's not bad. It's not a bad movie. It's not amazing. It's not very unique. It works as a fun action movie, but honestly, it's not as smart as I think it thinks it is. It's not very unique. It's not a very interesting story, really. It's a fun, kind of dumb action movie. It's good visuals, good action, some really good scenes, but other than that, it's a popcorn movie. That's the best way I can put it. If someone asked me, I would say, yeah, I'd recommend this, as long as you kind of know what you're going in for. You know, it's not a great story, but you're gonna get some, like, enjoyment out of it. Okay, so that was my review of The Creator. I'm gonna have some other bigger videos out soon, hopefully, that I'm working on. I hope you have a wonderful day. And remember, robots have feelings, apparently.